Okay, so let's start then.
Yeah, so we have Karen, Amy, Hillary, and Olga. We're gonna get a lot of practice in, it looks like. And it's self-driven learning, so we can do. But anyways, let's just do a quick, I guess, icebreaker. So it'd be name, where you're located right now, how you feel, um, and then like act out how you feel, and then you pass it to the next person. I'd be like, I'm Chris Federer. I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah. Um, I'm actually feeling pretty good. I took a little power nap a few minutes ago, and then a little bit of coffee. So I'm like good. But how about yourself, Hillary?
Hi everyone, my name is Hillary. I am based in Pasadena, California, which is not too far from downtown LA. I feel kind of recharged. I just finished my most recent semester at my grad program in applied psychology, which had me drowning. So like this week is my week off, so I've just been pretty much doing nothing. So I feel recharged. And should I pass it on or who do I pass it on to?
It's up to you.
Well, the most recent person I see is Zach, so I'll pass it on to Zach.
Hi, I'm Zach. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I'm sorry, can I'm
Name,
still,
location, and then how you're feeling. Then you're gonna have to act it out for us, and then you'll pass it.
name, location, Zach from Minnesota, and I'm feeling, um, I don't know, I'm sorry. I'm very excited to see what we're gonna see here today. Um, and I'll pass it on to Amy.
Hi. Excuse me. Ugh. Sorry, I have a soft voice, but I'm Amy. I'm located in Seattle, and I'm feeling hot and sleepy, so I have to act it out, I guess.
It's good.
Yeah. So I'll pass it on to Olga.
Hi everyone, my name is Olga. I am in Seattle. I just moved here from New Jersey and I feel a bit cold. It's colder here. And I will pass it to Kim.
Hi everyone, my name is Kim. I'm located here in Riverside, California. That's the southern part of California. Hillary here is actually my classmate and project partner in the UX research class at grad school. And today I'm feeling energetic because this is like Thursday. I'm passing it on to Shelly.
Hey, I'm Shelly. I'm here in the Bay Area. I am also feeling quite relaxed. I know Kim and Hillary, we're all in the same program, so we have our week off from grad school. So just chilling until we start again on Monday. Passing it on to Bryce.
Oh, Bryce, I think you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Hey, Chris, I haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you. You still here in Salt Lake?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, so I'm feeling honestly I have so much on my plate, but I just was like, I'll just squeeze this in on a Thursday night. And so for me, it's just like, just different things going on with as you know, stress and stuff. But it's good to be here. Thanks, Chris, for putting this on.
Bryce, what does the stress look like?
It's well, kids, with the COVID situation, the schools add stress. One of my kids can't stand a mask and struggling with that. Not very good for him. We have a new puppy who eats everything. She puts her.
How does it show up? Like if you had to act it out?
Yeah. Like pull out my hair a little bit. I don't have any more hair anyway. All right. I'll pass it on to Rodrigo.
So I'm chatting with Rodrigo, and I think he's having problems connecting his settings to sound. So could you choose another person while I help him?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Let's see here. So, Diddy, did you already talk? Diddy Lau?
Yes, hi. Do I need to put my video on?
It's optional. Yeah, I don't
know. Anyway, I'm Didi. I'm a project manager marketing and just recently got my UX. I'm looking for work as a product manager. I am feeling, I don't know, mixed feelings, I guess. There's just a lot going on. I'm originally from Los Angeles. I'm in Kansas City right now, just visiting, just to get away from the hot spot there. And, oh, I have to switch it off. Not everyone has their names on their video, their screen. So I'll just pick, did Elisa go? Elisa?
All right. Hi, my name's Alyssa. I'm from Chino, California. I'm a new grad from Carnegie Mellon, and I'm just seeing where my next career step is. So interested in UX research, and here I am. Oh, and I am feeling hydrated, so. I'll pick Pavit. Is that how you? Okay.
Thanks, Alyssa. I'm Pavit. Hi, everyone. I'm joining from Toronto, Canada, and I am feeling anxious and a little overwhelmed because I didn't realize I have a little small get together going on downstairs with like family, and this suddenly showed up. So now I'm conflicted, and should I be here or should I be there? So so this is how I'm feeling. Oh, I'm gonna pass it to Amy. Did you go already? Okay, Kim, did you go already? Okay, Olga, did you go? Oh, all right, Hillary. It's like I'm doing. Hillary, did you go? Okay. Iset, is it Iset? Okay.
Okay, hi. Sorry, I had my video off because I was eating dinner. So yeah, I might go off again just to finish eating. But yeah, I'm Iset Doidum, and I am based here in Nashville, Tennessee, originally from Philadelphia area, grew up there. And let's see, did we have to say how we're feeling? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So no, feeling good, excited about uh, a potential job related things. So really excited about that. Not sleeping well as a result, which is not good. Oh yeah, and I forgot to say I'm new UX researcher, transitioning from 8 years working in academic cognitive psychology research. So kind of still new though to some of the methods. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Who has not gone? Let's see. I think Rodrigo is back, right? Has he gone yet?
Oh, he's back.
Okay, cool. I pass it on to Rodrigo.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Rodrigo. I'm 29 years old, and I'm a UX and UI designer at an enterprise called Encora. So I'm also, let's say, a newbie on the
Is he gone?
Rodrigo, we lost you.
Okay, so I can pick up from him. I haven't gone anyways. So hello everyone, I'm Karen and I'm gonna be one of your hosts today, and I'm a learning experience researcher, and what that means is I combine methods from UX design and UX research and instructional design to create learning. So that's kind of my profession. So I'm gonna be talking about how to conduct UX research, but I have experience knowing how to create knowledge with people and both robots like AI. So I'm happy to talk about that. And I'm also a grad student studying human-computer interaction. So I'm very happy to hear everyone's experience. So that's my feeling right now, excited. And I'll pass it to Praful.
Are you able to hear me now? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Praful. It's so nice to see all of you here. And thank you for arranging this session here. I'm originally from India. And I'm currently residing in New Zealand. I work with Auckland University of Technology with a business school. I'm a student advisor here. I'm basically I use basically I use a lot of concepts from human-centered design, service designing, for the customer experience. And just I'm interested in learning more about it, how things are going around the world. Yeah. Should I pass it on to anyone? Has anyone not spoken yet? Because I joined a little late, so I'm not sure who has not spoken yet.
Yeah,
I
think that's everyone.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I guess before Karen gets in, I'd just like to say thanks for coming. This is your time. We're going to do a lot of role playing. I know Karen's going to be fielding a lot of questions. Ideally we want you to feel safe to actually do the role playing and participate. And then at least that's the intention.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can you explain how you're conducting this so we have an idea, like, is everyone participating or you're doing breakouts, or, just kind of give us a structure, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Karen, you want to take it from here? I'll be essentially doing operations, trying to keep this thing running, and Karen's going to be leading, and she'll explain from here. But anyways, just put stuff in the chat if you have any questions for.
Chris, are the breakout rooms working right now? Do you have? Okay, So basically, to answer to that question, we're gonna work, this is the structure. I got some questions from people around UX research or just the field in general. So I'm gonna be answering some of those. And then after that, we can role play, because I know some people wants to observe other people doing it and just to fulfill that need. And then since breakout rooms and Sim is kind of like giving us a hard time, I would like to do kind of a show and tell and kind of pair up people. And, you know, since it's a safe environment, we can, I mean, they can practice with each other and then we can provide some feedback. Just, you know, just for fun and to get that experience. Does that sound good? Or are there any questions? Okay, so let's start. So let's start with the questions. Someone asked me how they use synthesized data and form qualitative studies. That one, it's depending on where you are in your career. So I think more advanced level can facilitate more on qualitative studies. But if you're more like an entry level UX researcher, become aware that there's so many ways to synthesize data. For example, you can create, so this is the question one, affinity diagramming. Is anyone familiar with this or not familiar? So if everyone is familiar with this, that's just one way to do that. And there's so many ways to do this online. I use Lucidchart. So this is to the question about platforms. So Lucidchart really allows to put posters, and you can copy and paste some of the notes that you took from your interviews, and then you can color code it. Another way that I like to do it, it's, what is this called? Oh. Has anyone heard about spreadsheet? Sorry about my rainbow or rainbow spreadsheets. So basically what you do when you use like Excel or spreadsheets in Google Docs, you just basically assign a color to some of the patterns or themes that emerge. And the way it looks is that you frame questions here. And then on this part, you assign a color. So it could be green, yellow, black. And whenever you have your interview notes, you can color code it here. And then answering some of your questions that you had here. So this is a really good method to see where your things are falling. And I really liked how convenient it was. I'm not sure if this method is making sense on spreadsheet Rainbow.
Can you just like give an example, like a question and what color it would fall under? I mean, just to.
Okay. Yeah. So let's say my question would be food, like popular foods among people in their 20s. So, right. And then I have people in their 20s. Oh, not that. And then I have people in their 30s and 40s. And then maybe we can make green for vegetarian. And then maybe yellow for, I don't know, some things that are maybe American food. Just depending how you set up your research, right? This is just an example, and maybe black for, I don't know, Mexican. So depending, like either if you have a survey or an interview, depending on what you got from every audience, you will just select, oh, here or here. And the use case in here is that sometimes maybe people in their 30s, in their 20s also like American food. And it's just to kind of see the spread of things. So sometimes you might end up with things like this. So it's really to see how things are spreading now and the popularity of certain products. So that's the only, like, some of the use cases that I do, just to kind of see how things are spreading through my groups. Another way that I do it is coding. Is that clear before I move forward? And another thing, sorry, I recommend this book. This is my Bible. The Coding Manual for Qualitative Researchers by Johnny Saldana. And this book basically walks you through all the different ways to code research, like emotional coding. I'm blanking that one, but it's just basically ways that you can interpret research, and it gives you different like methodologies. So that's like my Bible, because it's really hard to remember every single method, but it's nice to go back to a book and kind of just look for the method that works. So I highly recommend that book. So I can't write it here. Does anyone need that book name?
Yeah, please. Could you tell me who's the author?
Yeah, I'll write the whole title in the chat.
I think it just dropped it in the chat, so you're good.
Okay, so the author is Johnny Saldana, and he has different books about coding qualitative research, and it sometimes walks you through how you can set up some of those studies, because there's just so many contexts and ways to do that. I know somebody has background in cognitive psychology here, so that's another way they have different ways to set the qualitative research. I think what I've seen with the scientists that I work with, they use a lot of focus groups where UX researchers tend to be more like, they set up kind of workshop or digital groups. So I think that's one of the broader questions that I got. So I tried to synthesize everything into something quick. I also had this question about people who had a lot of experience, and is anyone not familiar with expert blind spot? So basically the expert blind spot, it's the psychological term to refer to somebody who has done it for a long time that they forgot how to explain it, or they forgot how it is like to be a beginner. So that happens a lot with professors, that professors know their things, but they don't know how to teach it. And one way to overcome becoming this expert blind spot is to sit down and think about your process and compare it to the ones of the beginners. So that will allow you to create more empathy and remember what it was for you to be a beginner. That's kind of one of the ways to do that. And it also helps with equitable outcomes too. Are there questions about this?
Actually, could you go over the affinity diagramming, please?
Yes. So I'll just try to make it really quick. So let's do an affinity diagramming. I'll just use the initials. So basically you'll have sticky notes. And this will be, in these sticky notes, you will write patterns or quotes. So you can write things like patterns, quotes, and observations. Sorry, my spelling. Anything that you get from your interviews, you just put it into, you select a color, so maybe a yellow. And this is raw data technically. And then probably you're going to end with tons of yellow nodes. And then you can select another color. So let's say blue. And your blue color, it's your insight. So you're gonna take the patterns, the quotes of the observation and make it into a theme. And then you're going to put that under here that supports that insight. And then that insight, usually the requirement, it's something like, what's the story? Like, what am I learning? And this is the data that supports that. And then you can select another color, let's say green. Sorry, I think I messed up the name. Let's call this one observation. And let's call this one insight. So I want to explain a little bit the difference. So sometimes I see a lot of people, especially starting to do affinity diagramming, they make it into observation. So they said, oh, consumer not happy with the current UI. It sounds like an observation. And it's not really telling your stakeholder anything. So this yellow ones is kind of giving you that story of why it doesn't work, but the insight will have a few blue sticky notes supported by the yellow ones. And this is where you are telling the lesson or next steps or actionable items. And this is really what your stakeholders might be looking for. Does that make sense? It's really quick. Okay, and I think I want to dedicate some time to practicing UX interviews. I can address any other questions right now in regards to either conducting interviews or any questions that I just addressed.
How long would you say, like, how long should an interview be?
Interviews, it really depends on what your research question is. For example, usually I go for a ballpark number that I can give is 45 minutes.
Okay. And
Like,
is that for like generative or evaluative like research?
I use both because when I do usability studies, I just recruit people for 1 hour. So that if we finish earlier, at least I'm not like time crunching. And when it comes to compensation, I know somebody asked me about how do we make that chip. It's gonna be really hard because I hope you guys are familiar with the IRB.
Yes.
And they care about protecting the participant, right? So if your study requires them an hour, like really there's gotta be like not like a super mega good compensation, but some sort of compensation for their time because they're protected by that. Yeah, so.
Yeah. I guess my follow-up would be when you create your mod guide, how many times do you, I guess, test it before you finally decide like, okay, this is the questionnaire that I'll be using?
Okay. In my workplace is always my stakeholder wants things done soon. So I try to test it with my coworkers at least 3 or 5 times getting that feedback because it's a really fast-paced environment. So I cannot test it with actual users, unfortunately, unless I can have time and I call it, I'm gonna pilot this interview, but I have to have really good reasons why I want to dedicate time for that in the project. So that's kind of my context. But if your company allows you to have that time, I will say test it with 3 people or 5.
Do you have to explain to your stakeholders why you're using those questions, or based out of your project proposal of what your research questions are, then they'll approve of it? And it's just going to be based out of your decision. Okay. Yeah. That's my thank you.
And something tricky with stakeholders is even if you show them and ask them for feedback, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's good. But once the project is done, they're gonna be like, why did you ask that? And it's just have good reasons why you're asking that and it aligns with your goals, because sometimes stakeholders tend to reverse on what they're saying. And that's kind of one way to help them remember that they approve of it. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for your questions. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We can do a little bit of practice of this interviews. Okay. So do I have a volunteer?
So yeah, I have a couple questions. So I'm not a professional researcher by any means. I'm more of like a prototyper and on the more on the physical design side. So I'm not great at this and excited to practice. But how are we going to do this?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was practicing with other person and other people. It seems like I was working to have her interview me and have a third person take notes. And because I'm gonna try to role play here and come up with my most fake answers, but also like I'll try to look for things. But as a team, I really this is a good chance to practice constructive feedback and observation skills, but also like being non-judgmental, because leading questions can happen and there's really no way to avoid them. And you can be aware of what are those keywords, like saying, oh, you like red, right? That's leading. So it's just being aware, but also being aware of your own biases, because that might be leading the research. But we can talk about it as we actually see it and practice it. So I would like to start letting you guys drive that learning. I'm just here as a research, but I want you guys to drive that learning.
Karen, you brought up a good question. I mean, asking questions that are what's unbiased or open-ended, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. During interviews, would you plan to have all these questions down so you have at least a base, I guess, to gear the conversation, and then flow into if maybe they're answering it differently?
I think, yeah.
Sorry if you can hear me or not.
Yeah, I think I was a little bit lost. I'm not too clear about the question.
Meaning, do you plan to have a set of questions?
Not really, because I know some people has their own project, their own context that we don't know. And that's what the user is coming with, right? Like once you're sitting with the interview, you have to explain what you're trying to learn. So this is more like for you to be ready for that part where you understand what you're looking for, but you have to explain that to a person with no context of it. And that's sometimes where I see the feedback coming, like how are you communicating yourself? How are you portraying? And those are the things that I want to see raw from you guys. Because at some point we probably conducted research, so you can recycle one of those old projects and just ask questions. So I can do that, the same thing with some previous projects. Does that answer the question?
I mean, to a point it does, but I guess what I've learned is at least have a few base questions to gear.
I can provide.
So, but
if
then we don't know what topic we're.
Okay.
Right?
So, does everyone wants questions? Because I have some questions, but I just want you guys to drive that learning and what feels comfortable.
Yeah, I can ask a few questions, but
Mhm.
I don't want to volunteer because I would have to step out real quick. So
Mhm.
if anybody else wants to go, please go ahead.
I mean, I was wondering, so can we just choose the topic, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess then I do have one for practice, I guess. Do you want the context, a short little intro or anything like that? Or do you just...
Imagine I'm your user and yeah, let's just have that conversation. And I know there's a lot of pressure with a lot of people watching, but you know, it's safe. We're just learning, I know.
Okay, so I guess my question would be, how did you decide, oh no, wrong one. What was your most recent meal?
Wait a minute. Imagine we're actually conducting user interviews.
Yeah.
Like,
so this one would be, I think, in the context of creating a meal planning app, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was like my question I would start with. Yeah.
So imagine we just pop into the computer and you say, hi, my name is...
Oh, okay.
I'm doing blah, blah, blah. Are you willing to help me with my research? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Hi, my name is Alyssa, and I am conducting user research to find out how I could make meal planning easier for people. I was wondering if I could get your consent to this research. We will be using it just to improve people's experiences, and it won't be personally identifiable information that could link back to you. Yeah. Is it good if we start the interview?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So I would like to ask you, what was your most recent meal?
I had noodles.
Noodles?
Instant noodles, actually.
So did you make that yourself?
Yes.
Oh, that was a bad question.
No, it's okay. Keep going. Just remember, like in the moment.
Okay. So on a regular day, what would your meals look like?
I'm a very busy person, and sometimes my meals look like instant noodles, scrambled eggs, lots of coffee, and oh yeah, that's probably it.
How do you feel about your daily meal planning routine?
Sometimes I feel guilty because I know it's such a terrible diet for me, but I can't get into the habit of making a meal plan the night before. I just really like the fresh cooked food, so yeah, that's how I feel.
And that's really all I have off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's good. So before I give my feedback, does anybody wants to share some constructive feedback to Alisa or some thoughts about what you guys saw?
Yeah, I think Alisa, like you did great because usually when you do like usability stuff or just like questions in general, you start off very broad, right? And as your user gives you answers, like she mentioned, oh, she does noodles, or why noodles? So it's a lot asking of like why and how, and so it was good, like the way you ask it, like tell me how your day is like. So And then I personally would have asked like, in detail, could you provide me what your day is like? And then from there, you ask like, and then tell me what your meal is like. How do you plan? And then some people will go very broad and say like, what's your weekdays are like, and or weekends. Maybe there's a deviation on that, and you keep asking like, well, why? How many hours do you work in a week? Because these are like, it's a both quantitative and qualitative. And she said she felt bad. Why do you feel bad? What's the thought behind that? Why do you feel bad about not prepping properly? And what's stopping you? Yeah. So yeah. Sorry.
That's really amazing feedback. Thank you. Yeah. Does anybody else have something for Alisa? Well, I do have a few things too. Sorry, I didn't write everything, but so your introduction, I think it went good. The only part that I think probably the pressure, maybe you forgot to ask me for my consent.
Oh, yes.
We just went directly to the interview. But you know, it's like just in that context, it's really, even if you send them an email or something to sign, it's good to say, does this sound like something you sign up for?
Okay.
Sometimes people don't read things, so it's just making sure that it's clear that they did sign up for that, and they're like, oh yeah, that sounds like I signed up for that. The other thing, as Kim was talking about, like acknowledging emotions, that's something really important, because I was, like I mentioned, I feel guilty. But it's, even if it's feeling guilty or happiness, it's really good to follow up with acknowledging that emotion. Like, oh, you seem passionate about blah, blah, blah. Oh, can you tell me a little bit more about where that guilt is coming from?
Okay.
Yeah, or can you describe blah, blah, blah. So it's just to get more power in those emotions, because that's how you can dig on their inner thoughts or values.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question on that actually. So I feel like when I asked the question, I had like 3 different other questions I wanted to ask following that. How would would it be good to ever circle back, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's say that she touch, or I touch, or whatever, touches like in 3 things that you're interested, but you don't want to interrupt, so the person keeps talking. Write it somewhere, like, oh, I remember you touching this point. You were talking about noodles.
Yeah.
Can you tell me blah, blah, blah? Or I'm very interested about you saying, when you said blah, blah, blah. So that's how you can reverse back.
Sounds
so
good.
Remember, your interview protocol is not hitting points, it's more your guide to talking points. So
okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now this was an example of how we can do things, because breakout rooms are not working. So maybe I will need 2 volunteers, one that can interview and the other that can role play as an interviewee. And it could be just 3 questions or 4 questions about any simple topic, and we can provide feedback.
Oh, I could volunteer.
Then we need 1 more person.
I'll volunteer.
Okay. So you guys decide your roles and let's go.
What do you want to do?
I'll be the interviewee.
Okay, I can be the interviewer. So my topic will be, I'm just going to be curious about your breakfast routine. So, hi, my name is Hillary. I am a UX researcher for a company. Today we are going to be talking about, we are getting together to learn more about your breakfast routine. This recording is for research purposes only, so whatever you share, the good and bad, we encourage you to share. Before we begin, do you have any questions for me?
No questions.
Awesome. And before we get started, I just want to reaffirm that I have your consent before we proceed with this interview.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to start off with some background questions. Can you tell me where you are from and where you're located at?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm from San Diego, but I'm located in Utah currently.
Okay. And what is your living situation like, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, so I'm married, have a wife, 2 kids, and we live in a townhome. Um, Pretty much it.
Yeah, definitely. And what can you walk me through what a typical morning routine looks like, starting from when you wake up?
Yeah, definitely. So I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I hit the gym like around 6:30. I get home around 7:30, so I only go to the gym for about an hour. And by that time, my daughter is up, so I have to make sure to brew some coffee. And if I have time or if she has time, make some breakfast for her. So typically, it's bacon, eggs, and toast. If not, if we're running late, it's typically cereal and out the door by maybe 8 o'clock. So that's my morning. Then I drop her off to school and come back home. But that's mainly like the morning routine at home.
Oh wow, thanks for sharing. It sounds like you have a jam pack of the morning, being a dad and everything.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm curious, how do you decide on what to buy for breakfast, or how do you decide on what to make for breakfast?
It honestly kind of just depends on the schedule, right? So if we have time, I will take my time and make a breakfast for her. Or if my wife is home and she has time, then she will make something. But if not, then we'll just do something as fast as like something quick, toast, cereal, toast or strudel, something quick. And if we're like treating her out because she did good, we'll go to Starbucks in the morning. She'll get like a breakfast sandwich. So it kind of just really depends on the situation.
Awesome, thanks for sharing. And this is
Yeah, you bet.
I can think of right now, so I think this is a good example.
All good. You did great.
Yeah, you did good. This is like a moment to kind of in that moment to think about it. But any feedback for her?
I think you did amazing. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not too experienced with it, so I can't provide you like amazing feedback. But I think you did good. Solid job.
Well, that's good, right? Because that's how you feel your yourself, right? That it's comfortable.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
One question I do have is, do you happen to have any advice of like how to respond and reflect back? Because when I was working on my project over the past semester, I noticed how I'll say things over and over again to reply back. I was like, great, thanks for sharing. Yeah, for sure, definitely. And it just doesn't feel like, I feel like if I were to elaborate on with my responses, it will lean towards a bias, but then at the same time, I don't want to sound like a robot. So that's like one thing I'm currently struggling with.
Okay. Did anyone feel like she was a robot?
No.
I'm gonna say, like, I have a really hard time doing that, and I thought you did really great with that.
Yeah. Actually, it might be one of those things that you think you might be portraying, but actually there was no, like, you didn't sound like a robot.
Okay.
I love how casual it was. Like you were actually having a conversation with him, but getting your information. But one thing that where I saw where you stuck on, it was like when you ask how do you decide, blah blah blah, and then after that, I think you didn't know what to follow up.
Yeah.
And that's something that users tend to trick us with. I think, do you pronounce Josue?
Josue.
Josue. He was saying, "Oh, I want something fast, something quick," and he will repeat those words over and over again. But like, you're thinking, okay, how do I follow up with that? Like, what do I say, right? I think what Jose was trying to tell you is something that he values. So something fast, something quick. That's his value. And you can ask him like, "Oh, can you give me an example of what's something quick?" Or can you tell me a little bit about why is that important? And then he can give you more reason or raw data into why this feature is so important to him and what brings to the benefit. Does that make sense? Or is that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But I think overall, I like that. some UX research questions require you to, what is this? To ask demographic questions. And some people might feel uncomfortable by us telling their demographics. So one way to go around that sensitivity, you can say it's part of the protocol to ask. I'm going to ask you some demographic questions. So that's one way you can go around that sensitivity. And if you don't need to ask demographics, but you want to have a background of that persona, you can ask, can you tell me about your story with blah, blah, blah. And then they want to talk about their lives, about anything they want to share. So,
Awesome.
yeah, that's my feedback. Any other two volunteers?
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, I don't know why I was thinking this, but when I heard Hillary say, hey, it sounds like you have a jam-packed morning. Sorry if it's not verbatim, but like, is that persuading the feeling, or do you have to be neutral? Or is it okay to kind of have that good feeling kind of synergy question? I don't know if that makes sense.
Could you clarify a little bit more there?
Meaning like, cause like, how do I say this? It was a comment that she said, it sounds like you had a busy morning, but because of the tone of her voice, will that change the interviewee's action or his answers? You know, like he might be, you know what I'm saying? Like the tone of voice can change, like, oh, that sounds defensive, or that's too open. You know, like I know it depends on the question, but, or that the tone of voice does change how the other person's receiving it.
Yeah, that kind of goes into my question. I feel like that's related to my questions of like, what's like the best way to respond
right,
to bias? Because it's like, I want to acknowledge that. I wanted to acknowledge that, like, oh wow, like he does have a jam-packed morning, but yeah, I don't want like my responses to
change the. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Right, that's why I wanted to bounce off of that.
Let's ask the user. What do you think, Jose?
I honestly didn't think anything of it. I think personally, I think agreeing, or not necessarily agreeing, but like just kind of confirming what they said, or like in some sense, right, is okay. So for example, if she were to tell me, oh yeah, this is my schedule, and I'm like, oh wow, it sounds like a busy schedule, I think it's just kind of like reiterating what she said back to her, in a sense, right? And kind of just like making her know that I was listening. And that's how I felt, honestly. I felt like she was kind of like really listening to what I was saying. And she's like, oh, wow, it's jam-packed. And I'm like, yeah, it really is. And then kind of just moving on with the conversation. So I don't think it necessarily swayed me either way, to be honest. But that's just how I felt. So
Can I interject?
Yeah.
You guys can hear me? Okay, cool. I also forgot to say earlier, I have a bachelor's in anthropology and UX design certification. But Didi, I think as far as persuading goes, I think that's something where the formality of the interview is kind of discussed beforehand, if it's going to be an informal or a formal interview. And Hillary, from my experience, sometimes the best thing to say is nothing, because it almost creates an awkwardness in the air that allows the user to fill with more to say.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you guys are having these discussions, because that's how I wanted you to create learning. But also going back to Josue's point, I also interpreted as Hillary not really inducing that bias, because she was really saying back what he already said. So it wasn't like, oh, you have a jam-packed morning. It's like you're assuming he's busy. But
Yeah, I wasn't trying to like diss her or anything. I was just trying to say, like, because she asked, you know, sometimes how do you how do you not always sound like a robot? Sometimes, you know,
Oh, yeah.
if you're just quiet for if you don't say anything, the user could bring the conversation in a different direction without you leading on anything.
Yeah.
Typically, you can just smile and nod.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, because, you know, it's like you don't want to leave the person to continue on a different, or continue on the same answer, right?
I think
Exactly.
I think one way to combat that, though, if you really do want to explore that avenue, you can say like, "Oh, it sounds like you have a jam-packed morning. Can you tell me more about what goes into that morning?" Or like, you know, and then kind of just get into like the micro interactions that happen at that during that time. But yeah, I see what you guys are saying. But silence is definitely good, because if you have like 4 seconds of silence, the user probably wants to fill that awkward silence, right, with more information.
Yeah.
Kind of like I'm doing now.
So, Zach, to your point with silence, like, is it, you know, like how when we're listening, we nod our heads? Is that okay to like a verbal, like a non-verbal feedback to say like, yes, we're listening?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, like,
Right. Okay. Okay.
And you know, sometimes that gives you, you know, extra moments to continue jotting down notes and thoughts to completion as well.
That's a good point. Right.
And adding to that, sometimes this is like a little light that I throw to my users. Oh, I might be looking away because I'm taking notes, and I just take that moment or that silence for them to think that I'm taking notes. So while I'm trying to recharge and get back on myself, and it just gives me like 5 seconds of window for me to kind of organize my thoughts and what the person is telling me. So, and they're like, okay, yeah, I can give you that time to put down your notes. Or you can say, oh, can you give me like 1 second to check my list of talking points that I want to get through with you? And then they're like, oh, sure, yeah. Because they want to help you too. So it's nice to remember that they are on board with whatever logistics that you need to do. And you can get that breathing room, as Zach was saying. Yeah. So yeah, this is pretty good. Like, I'm learning a lot from you guys also, like getting those point of views. Any other 2 volunteers?
Looks like Rodrigo is.
Yeah, I would like to
sure.
give it a try.
And we need just 1 more person.
Can go again if you guys.
Yeah.
No. All right, cool. Let's do it, Rodrigo.
Okay, awesome. So, thank you. Hi, Josue. How are you doing?
Doing good. Doing good. Oh.
Awesome. Yeah. Should we keep like?
Yeah, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, but I said if you want to do it, feel free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, please jump in. Please jump in. Izid.
Okay, can you hear me?
Just way.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hi. Sorry. No. It's okay. I replied late. I don't. Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, if you want, I can be the interviewee. If Rodrigo wants to be the interviewer.
Okay. So let's give them a chance. Who is it? Thank you. But yeah, let's give them a chance too. But,
Oh, is that what he was saying? Oh, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood.
Okay. So
I misunderstood.
He stopped because there was no volunteers, but he already did it.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. I apologize. I misunderstood what was going on. Okay, sorry.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, just to give you a chance to participate too, and so you guys can start.
Okay.
No, Isaac, I think you're still on. Sorry. I think she meant like go ahead, because I just went the previous one. So go ahead. No, feel free.
I'm so confused. I don't. Okay.
Let's start over. Go ahead. It's all you. Go ahead.
Jose went on the previous one, but because everyone was kind of silent, Jose kindly volunteer again.
Okay. So am I the interviewer or the interviewee?
Okay, I was planning to be the interviewer.
Okay.
If you're okay with it.
Yeah, no, totally. That's what I thought initially, and then I thought that was not the case, and now I realize that is the case. Okay, all right. Yes, that's totally fine.
Cool. So let's start. Well, so your name is Isaac. Is
Isaac,
it pronounced right?
That's correct, Isaac.
Okay. Okay, Isaac, so welcome. My name is Rodrigo Valderrama. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm a UX researcher. I will be leading today this session with you. But first, let me talk about how today's session is going to be like. So we're going to talk about a little bit about your experience regarding telemedicine. So I may be asking some questions, and I would really like to know if you're okay with this. I would love to record this session to go back and take notes. So also, I would like to know if you have any questions before we start.
No, I'm okay with being recorded.
Okay, awesome.
Will it be anonymous?
So,
will it be anonymous, or will I? Okay.
Yeah, we'll keep the information confidential, so it is good that you mention it. Okay, so first of all, I would like to know a little bit about your background. So please tell me, where are you currently living?
I live in Nashville, Tennessee.
Awesome, Nashville, Tennessee. So I would really like to know, we're on this unfortunate pandemic situation. So has your life been affected by this situation?
Of course, I think everyone has.
Yeah. Does your health has been affected by this situation as well?
Can you repeat that? What's
Yeah.
that?
Does your health has been affected by the situation on the last, let's say, 6 months?
Okay, my health. Physical health? No. But maybe mental health a little bit, because I'm seeing less people and it's less social. So yes, less for my,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So have you ever tried to use a telemedicine app on these last 6 months?
No. I went in person to my doctor appointments.
Okay, so do you prefer to go physically rather than digitally with a doctor?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah. Do you prefer to go physically to an appointment with a doctor rather than with a digital appointment?
Yes. So I was given an option, and I preferred to go physically to the doctor instead of
Okay, awesome.
digital.
Can you explain me why do you prefer to go physically with a doctor, or even this situation we're running through?
Yeah. So it was for a pinched nerve in my back, and so I felt like it would be better to be in person with the doctor so that he can test my arm strength and do any physical tests that need to be done. So I felt like even if we talk over the phone, it's not going to be the same quality.
Yeah. Okay. So in which scenario would you consider to use a telemedicine app? Or do you like to?
I think if it was a situation where I don't need to be physically assessed by the doctor, or I feel like that's not going to give me an extra benefit, then I think it would be, I would be happy with meeting over the phone, especially if it's something where I just have to talk and relay information. So Yeah, I think that that's the only time where I would be okay. Otherwise, I would prefer to be in person. It's yeah, to get the full benefit.
I got it. Well, I would say that will be the questions because I just go blank.
Thank you, volunteers, for
Thank
being
you.
so brave. Yes.
Thank you very much.
So, any feedback for Rodrigo?
Oh, I can share. I think you did a good job at following up with some of her responses, especially when you asked her like if she prefers like seeing this type of doctor. I forgot what the exact response was. I thought you did a great job with that. I think my only feedback that I can think of is maybe try to think of more open-ended and less biased questions. For example, like when you were asking her, oh, like, do you prefer seeing like this type of doctor? Maybe rephrasing it and saying like, do you prefer or do you not prefer X, Y, and Z? Or another example would be like, oh, like, were you, if at all, impacted by the pandemic? So then you're not like assuming that she was impacted, even though like most likely she was. But I think just adding those little details, it's a very granular, but one thing that I've learned from my course and what my professor really grilled me on was just not making sure that you're not asking questions that assumes anything.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for giving him that, Hillary. Anyone else? If I can give you guys a chance to think about, I do have some feedback too. I really like how you told her that if it's okay to record the session so you can go back in your notes. That was really good. But if you notice, she did ask, is this going to be confidential? Like there was like that concern, right? I think something to take in mind when introducing projects, clarify the difference between being confidential and being anonymous. Those are two things different. So, because in a lot of our research, we utilize quotes from our users, right? So by being anonymous, we're not giving that name, but we're sharing that data actually. So if you're being confidential, then you can't share that data in any way. So it's kind of thinking about the policy that you said and what's the difference between those two words. So thank you guys for bringing that up. Another thing, how has the when you were asking her like if she's been affected and she said, yeah, I think everyone has. I think it got you by surprise, right? It sounded like, it looked to me that you were like, okay, and no more questions asked. I think a good follow-up could be, can you give me an example of how you were affected? So that way she can go into description mode and tell you a little bit more about her lifestyle under the pandemic. And yeah, back to Hillary's point, it was a little bit, it was leading. Especially with, do you prefer going to the doctor? As a trick, just remember, do you questions are often leading. You can change it to, can you give me an example? What's your ideal situation to get in medical healthcare? That way they can give you that those answers and that story around her preferences with medicine. Yeah, so those were the things that I caught. Anyone else has questions or feedback for Rodrigo? Okay, and just quick question, how are you?
Actually, I have a question. I think the few interviews I've done on just like websites and physical products, lots of times we'll ask, you know, like, hey, we're not evaluating. I mean, do you want to make it, at least when if you're doing something along with a website, you're always making sure that they know that that you aren't evaluating them and that there is no right and wrong. Is there a similar thing when you're just doing normal user research where I don't even know if this is normal research, but like where you're just trying to tease out unmet needs or motivations or anything else you're looking for with this research, or is that part of the speech? Like, hey, we're not judging you, or
Yeah.
yet, or is
It
that
is
just
part,
implied?
it is part of the speech. Sometimes it's very important to highlight that. So one of my current research is around equity and race. And a lot of people have conflicting feelings around like, oh, how should I say this? So in that moment is where we have to come and say, remember, there's no right or wrong answer. We're just chit-chatting, exchanging ideas. I'm not judging. It's a safe environment. So it's just kind of reminding them that those answers are not going to affect them in any way. They're not going to lose their jobs, because that's what we want. The users who are also not happy with their products, because they can tell you like, oh, I'm not using this product because of blah, blah, blah. Right? Like you don't want them to give you, oh yeah, this is great. And there's no point of doing research because everything is great. But there are points where it's super important to remind them there's no right or wrong answer. Like this is your space to share your thoughts. And that's what we want, raw thoughts, the real authentic user. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I know there's some agencies like design studios and agencies that are just doing more casual user research. One of them's calling it insider insights, where they're essentially contracting friends of the users they want to do research on, and they'll just record a conversation of them, like over coffee or beer or whatever. What in that like, I guess the user then is still agreeing or consenting to having their conversation recorded and stuff. I guess I'm just thinking like, so a lot of this so far has been like very structured and very professional, where it's like, hey, do you consent to this, and like checkbox, and what about in just like a more casual setting?
You still need that consent because you're doing research.
So
and you're using that data.
Used for making money down the road, potentially.
Yeah, you're using, they have to know that. There is this case where a professor was doing a study on Facebook, and he got those accounts from students. But he was like, well, it's pretty casual. But those students now, Facebook accounts are published on that research paper, even though it was, the students just kind of were like, yeah, sure, but they didn't know how that data was going to be used. So even over coffee, if you're just chit-chatting, if you're just going to use that for research, you have to let them know that that information is going to be used. It's just part of IRB. It's their rights as a participant. And yeah, there's no casual research. Unless you're just not sharing and not doing any research project, but yeah, just awareness. It can be a legal problem, especially with minors. Yeah. Anyway, so thank you guys for helping me drive this learning. And any other volunteers or any repeats are fine. Okay. Are there any questions or things that you're curious or things that are popping out?
Not a question, not kind of related to this, but can we have you be the interviewer and see how you do it? Kind of just would be kind of interesting to see that.
Yeah. So 1 second. We're going to need a volunteer too. And how casual do you want me to be? Do you want me to research about something casual or something sensitive?
I mean, I guess it's up to the interviewee, right? So.
Yeah. So whoever wants to volunteer, please give me that spectrum of.
I can volunteer if no one else wants to do it.
Thank you. And
I guess it'll be interesting to see how, if it's like a very sensitive topic, how you open people up.
Okay. And let's see. And are you a student? Can you give me a little bit of that background? I forgot.
Sure. I'm a full-time graduate student, but prior to the semester, I was working full-time in marketing in the restaurant industry, and I was laid off. So I was working, but now I'm just doing school full-time and just finishing out my degree.
Okay, nice. Thank you for reminding me. Okay, so let's start. Hi, Hillary. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So thank you so much for signing up today. Today I'm going to be conducting research about equity and race and how we can improve student educational outcomes. Does that sounds like something that you sign up for? Okay, yeah, so thank you so much. And just to remind you, this interview is going to be recorded. Is that okay with you? This will not be shared with anyone by all means. We might be using some of your quotes to present to our stakeholders and push for policy change, but your identity will remain anonymous.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you so much, Hillary. So I'm gonna click the button for recording, and it's recording right now. Let's start. Okay, so Hillary, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your story with your current university?
Yeah, so I am based in Los Angeles. I am currently a full-time graduate student at the University of Southern California studying applied psychology. I went in wanting to pursue it just to bolster my marketing career, but after I got laid off in late March from my full-time marketing role in the restaurant industry, I had some time to think about my career, and ultimately I realized how UX research was for me. Ironic because I'm interviewing, but whatever's. So I decided that I want to go into industry research.
Wow, you mentioned a lot of adventures that you had right there. I'm very curious about you getting laid off. Can you tell me a little bit about those challenges?
Yeah, I think the main challenge was just how fast it was, because I wasn't really expecting the news. But I think, granted, the pandemic itself was just very unprecedented, and I think the hardest thing was just having to empathize with why I was laid off so quickly. Just because I like really loved my job. I really loved the team I was working with, and obviously the financial stability as well. So it was really hard to process everything.
Yeah, and can you tell me a little bit about your support system?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the first group of people I leaned onto were my friends, who I trust and who are very understanding, and as well as with my family. And then I started to, once I had some time to, let all my emotions out, I reached out to people on LinkedIn and set up informational interviews. I also leaned on to a lot of my classmates as well, who were pretty much like my cheerleaders. And I also just put myself out there. I attended a few different webinars, and it was which were basically like a community group of, and they basically were just discussing topics of like what to do in the middle of a crisis. And I felt like just being around like the people who are going through the same thing as me has really helped me through this transition.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I know this is really private information and difficult times for you. I'm very curious, given your situation, what does having a degree means to you?
That's a really good question. I haven't really thought about that. I think at first I just think back to like why I did this program, and the reason why I did it was I was originally at a job that I felt like was a dead end job. I felt like there was no way out, and I really wanted to leave that job. So I just crammed the GRE in 2 months and got into my program. I guess my degree is more just to really reignite like my passion for psychology. I always knew that I love psychology, but knew that I didn't want to go into clinical, and knew that I just want to apply it to the things that I enjoy learning. So I think that's pretty much what my degree means to me, is just emphasizing my passion for this one topic that I'm really, really curious and have always been curious about and have always been wanting to learn more about.
Wow, that's really amazing, because it's really good for me to like understand what drives students to get that degree, those motivations. And as you may know, the US has troubles with the system and not being financially helpful to a lot of students. And that's something that I want to speak with you about. I want to utilize that experience that you have, that knowledge, because I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you some data about the race gaps. And is Hillary here?
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Oh yeah, sorry, it moved my screen. So imagine I'm sharing my screen and showing you some data. So basically we're looking at the 4-year undergraduate graduation rates of 2019. And as you can see, white graduation rates, it's at 47%, where Black or African Americans, it's at 28%, and Hispanic students are at 36%. Does this surprise you at all?
I can't really see the data, so I can't.
Yeah. So imagine there's like a gap. Yeah.
Say no, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and why is that?
Sorry, can you repeat what the data is?
So we have graduation racial gaps, where whites are graduating the most and African Americans are graduating the lowest. Even when we look at income, for example, low income whites and low income Blacks, we're still seeing that gap. So
yeah, I think I just kind of reflect back to all of my learnings that I've done ever since everything that has been going on in the news, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement, and just educating myself about racism. And the one thing I can think of, reflect back on, was this video that I watched about systemic racism, how they compared a Caucasian American and an African American and their lifestyle, and just basically just showing how that's pretty much how the government has set up the system for us. So I think that's pretty much why I don't feel as surprised, especially since this topic, a very sensitive topic, is just something that we're all being educated on right now.
Yes, and thanks so much for sharing that, because I know given current climate, it's really hard to open up about it. So if you don't mind, I'm going to keep asking questions in regard to that topic. If I say something wrong or something that makes you uncomfortable, I'm willing to stand corrected. And also there's no right or wrong answer to the following interviewing questions. So we were speaking with some of your academic advisors, and they were saying that they want to help their students. They want to give them those educational opportunities. However, they don't wish to know their students' race. As part of the minority group, what are your thoughts?
I'm not entirely sure. I don't really have an initial opinion that comes to mind. I think I kind of understand why it's helpful not to see race, just because, it just takes out all the bias. I would say like that's the only opinion or only thoughts that comes into my mind. I would say like maybe in addition to that, I think it would be helpful if they also add in like family income or salary income as well, just to further take out the bias. I'm not entirely sure if it is necessarily really helpful, just because it's like the more data that, it's like on the contrary, it's like the more things that you do know, like the more mindful you can be of, diversity, for example. So it can kind of go both ways. I think it just depends on the actual intentions of why they chose not to disclose the person's race. So I think it just comes down to the actual intention.
Okay, thanks so much for sharing and volunteering to do a sensitive topic interview.
Yeah, I was like, whoa.
I know it's kind of tough to talk about it, and thank you for volunteering, because I know you had to, everyone is listening, so I didn't ask other further questions because I was like, oh, I can ask about this and this and this, so I have to pre-select some questions. So any thoughts, feedback?
I mean, I have some thoughts. Well, I guess it was. So you work for a school, Karen.
I do consulting for schools and businesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
To me, it sounded like there was a bias towards, or like in the interview, towards like a diploma is going to help someone, like making the assumption that like a diploma is just going to help anyone.
Can you tell me how was that an assumption?
Which maybe it does, I don't know, but it just felt like, it just, they're almost, to me, and I could be off, like it almost felt like there was a little bit of a sales pitch in there too. And
yeah.
I guess that's okay.
Oh, just because our population are current students, and also just asking what does a degree means to you, that's where we find what kind of value they give to their degree, whether it's something helpful, whether it's something instrumental, or something that it's something that you don't grow up with. I had a user telling me, in my family, I wasn't raised with education being a priority. So I'm just doing this because it's something that I'm told to do. So that question itself just kind of, what does a degree means having for you? Some people open up to like, yeah, that's not something that I want. Some people, like Hillary, she seemed like she found what she wanted and how her degree wanted to help her. So it's just kind of going off that, but that's a pretty good feedback and question to keep in mind too. And another thing, I am purposely ask a leading question. Like I knew that. I said, does this surprise you at all? And I did that in purpose. Any?
I did not notice it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, how was that a leading question? I didn't think it was a leading question. I thought it was just more like a close-ended, you wanted to know whether it was surprising or not type of thing.
What will make it not leading is, what are your thoughts about seeing that research? But me saying, does this surprise you at all? I'm assuming she's surprised, or like I'm trying to add the emotion. Okay. But you know, the more open will be, what are your thoughts, or what is your reaction, or you know.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I just threw it in there. I was like, I want to see like if anyone. And another thing, given that it's education and like talking about race is not something that I can ask, has anyone ever been racist to you in education? Because that's what my stakeholder wants to find out. So my transition was showing the data. You know, just not put it on my participant, not put it on me, but you know, it's more like, this is the data that we've been given. And that's kind of how you open it, and you're not put it on the participant. And I think Rodrigo had that question about COVID. He can say, oh, about this percentage of people are visiting the doctor during the pandemic. He can initiate questions like that, just, you know, showing data, and they have something to think about. And yeah. So, is this being helpful at all? I'm just curious.
It's really helpful.
Yeah, I think it was good to see like how to go about like a sensitive topic. I felt very comfortable, like even though the questions were uncomfortable, I felt really comfortable telling you because I felt like you did a really good job at like just like setting the scene and just making sure that, hey, it's a safe space, and just always just making it feel like it's a casual, it is still a casual conversation, even though the topic is a little bit intense. So
Yeah, thank you. That's really good to know because I interview hundreds of people, so that's good to know they were not feeling like, oh, she got me there. Yeah. Yeah, it is a super sensitive topic, and in some cases, your company might ask you to find out the person's race or demographics. So uh, just say it's part of the protocol. That way, you put it on the company, not on you. That's one technique that I will advise. But yeah, it's just if you feel uncomfortable talking about something, the user is automatically gonna sense that, and they're going to feel uncomfortable too. Because if I talk about race, like walking on eggshells, then I'm telling my user race is bad. But if I try to set this in neutral, like it's normal. We're a melting pot country, so yeah, we can talk about this. This is to help students who wants to get a degree and how that affects like one race. So yeah, that's kind of what I do for my job. So any other questions or practical advice I can give or research?
We just do like a quick, well, if there's no other questions, or we can, you'll be on a little bit longer too. Can we just do like a roses, buds, thorns, like wrap up? Like, they went like anything good that went during this session, buds, things to improve on, and thorns when just didn't work at all. We're all interested in improving, the meeting experience or learning experience, so you're not going to hurt anyone's feelings at all.
I thought it was good to have practice, actually be able to do what we learned a little bit and reviewed a little bit in the beginning. Yeah, that was really good. Can't really think of a thorn, but yeah.
Yeah, I really like, oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I really liked the fact that we got to hear you kind of like interview someone, right? Because as for me, speaking personally, like I haven't had that much experience shadowing someone else. So kind of like hearing the questions and how you like phrase things and how you set things up, I think it was like a really good learning for me. So that's one of my, that's my feedback. As far as thorns go, I would say like in the beginning, kind of like, it's obviously with people volunteering and stuff. So kind of like, it started rocky, right, with that. So like maybe figuring out a way of like how to delegate volunteers or to have that prepared beforehand so that we don't have that like rough start at first. I think that would be great. But aside from that, I think everything else was pretty smooth and it was really insightful. So thank you.
Thank you too.
Yeah, I thought, I think you guys intended as a breakout, and I think this group, having a whole actually helps because you can hear different perspectives, from everyone's different experiences, like how Zach jumped in and said, his point of view, which was great, and to Josue, am I pronouncing that right? That is a good point about having someone delegate. Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. I wanted to bounce off of that. The introduction, that's what I wanted to talk about. Gosh, I remember there was another event that I went to, and you would sort of call everyone's names in order, and then everyone has to remember who they follow before and after, so that when they introduce each other, they sort of remember, okay, that's the next person. I don't know, it's just a random option. That's how they did it, and it sort of helped because it sort of brought in like, what did the person, I'm sorry, I didn't explain that right. Each person introduced themselves, and then they have to repeat what that person said. So it sort of brings in like what, like in person, we would remember what they did and do. So it's sort of like building that rapport, that breaking the ice sort of thing. I'm not explaining myself correctly. Sorry.
So essentially introduce yourself and then echo what the person.
Exactly, right. So it's sort of like, hey, this is what I heard. Okay, maybe we could bounce off of that, So it does help bring in that, introducing each other and,
Echo intro, we'll call it. Echo ice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
My rose was kind of gaining a slightly different perspective on UX research. My bud would have been, based from my research, having more directed towards like tech and sites design and app development as far as like interviewing questions go. And my thorn was, unless someone asked, I didn't notice it, but consent to record the session.
Yeah. Good catch. You're right.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining, everyone. That's about it. Hopefully connect on LinkedIn and keep talking, and we're here if you need anything.
Yeah.
Karen,
you guys
for a little bit.
Oh yeah, I can stay for a little bit.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to meet everyone. That's what Jose. You're up in Ogden?
Yeah, actually, I'm in Orem.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, not too. Yeah, I mean it's pretty far from Ogden actually. That drive's not good.
Yeah, that's the opposite direction.
Are you in Salt Lake?
Yeah. But this is nice being able that we can go a little bit more global now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think this is my first event that I actually attend, but I think I connected with you on LinkedIn not too long ago. So it's actually nice putting a face and a voice to the name.
Yeah, I like community building.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Well, thanks for doing this. Thank you for doing this. I'll be around more. Hopefully I get to see you guys too.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Have a good one.
Okay, bye.
Praful, am I pronouncing it properly?
I think you're muted.
Oh, are you able to hear now?
Yeah.
Yeah, the pronunciation is pretty much good. It's exactly like that.
What time is it in New Zealand?
So well, now here it is 12:43 in the afternoon and it's Friday here.
Thanks for connecting on LinkedIn and everything.
Thank you so much. Actually, thank you for arranging this session and also sharing various things on LinkedIn. So it's really good. It's really good to see how things are going around, to hear about different perspectives of the same thing at different places. That's when you get to understand how the evolution of any particular topic and how it is going ahead, and you really get to learn a lot. So thank you for connecting.
No, same here. Thank you for engaging and sharing as well. Bye.
Sure. Looking forward to further such events.
Well, even on the LinkedIn stuff, it's always funny. I'm like, I can't believe people are actually like like responding to this stuff. It's always funny. I'm like, man, this is crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But yeah.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you for your insights.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for coming too. I hope it was helpful.
Yeah, it was pretty helpful. I was just writing notes on the side while you were discussing. So yeah, like I will connect through LinkedIn to you also.
Yeah. Yes, let me send it. I think I forgot to share it with the group. But
No worries. Yeah. Chris, are you having any? Are you trying to make any group on LinkedIn or Slack or anything where maybe you can if this group of people, if they are interested in discussing further?
oh yeah, that'll be a really good idea to continue being resources for each other, because that was kind of the goal too.
Yeah, just a thought. You
Yeah.
can think.
I mean, most of the participants are coming from that Facebook. There's a Facebook user research group.
Okay.
So I kind of made the assumption that people would just keep on coming in there or interacting there.
Oh, okay. Well, I was not aware of the Facebook. I can definitely look on Facebook now.
Yeah.
I felt kind of bad about siphoning community members off of their group. I'll share you the Research Collective.
Okay.
They're really good. The people are super helpful and
Okay. Well, for a long time, I was not looking at Facebook because Facebook was all non-professional stuff going on there. So I was more focusing on LinkedIn and similar places.
yeah, for some reason, these guys are it's like the best user research group I've seen online.
Well, I will have a look. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, people are super collaborative and engaging. But I mean, if there's some like nichier, if someone wanted like a more niche down community, we could try it.
Definitely. Well, this particular group like that we were discussing now, were all from your place, like where you are, or were there people from different countries also? So who responded?
The SLC, Human-Centered Design.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That started here in Salt Lake City, Utah in 2016.
Okay.
As a design thinking group, but now it's finding its place in the online world. Not sure what direction it's going to go. It seems like user research practice is a good way to go. Because I do a lot of facilitation practice.
Okay.
And like a bunch of facilitators will get together and try a bunch of crazy activities. And I can't believe no one's doing this for research.
Well, I think research is just a part of it. Like it just come along, and even how I found this particular event was I was not looking for this research event. I was looking more for something to learn a little bit more about what is going on in design thinking or is in facilitation area, and it was this event which came across, and this is how I came across you. So, and I think it is just a part of the process. Like you will go through this. Yeah. You will definitely find someone who are more focusing on this also, just on this. But yeah, finally everyone has to come together.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a huge and important part that requires practice, because when I finished my UX preparation and I got a job as a beginner, they just threw me into doing research, and I was like, wait, am I not shadowing anyone? Like, what am I supposed to ask? And there's I think in boot camps, they don't teach you how to conduct research. Like they tell you, but you don't see anyone doing it, or you don't you're not aware of what's going on. Like your job just expects you to do the research, like conducting those interviews and getting users feedback, but nobody tells you what goes into that. That's interesting to me.
What does
So
TTYL mean?
you had so you learned about this research on yourself, like, or did you take any other courses or collaborated with someone to learn about this?
So when I was an undergrad back in the day, UX and being a programmer was one of those two things that there wasn't really a major for it, and people could just get into the field by studying on their own. I think that was back in the day before the computer science degree was kind of more required. And
Right.
at the time I enrolled myself in a UX camp just to get that experience that my degree wasn't giving me. So it was like an add-on to that. And I had to kind of look for the resources myself. And back in that time, well, now it seems like there's curriculum and there's more like guidance around how to be a developer, a data scientist, and a UX person. So
I know.
it's
I get what you're saying.
yeah.
Like after a few days